Piers Morgan uploaded a debate with several personalities, including Jack Posobiec, Anna Kasparian, Andrew Wilson, and who else? Who was on it? Cornel West. He stormed off in rage, refusing to have a dialogue. So Piers Morgan decided to bring on Destiny, a liberal streamer, who states, and I quote, "If you wanted Charlie Kirk to be alive, Trump should not have been president in the second term." And I'll play that video for you right now.
Cornel West for now. Maybe we'll get him back. Well, Andrew Wilson referred to Destiny's insane tweets a little earlier, which were disavowed by Anna Kasparian. Well, Destiny joins us now. Destiny, you've been quite active on social media since Charlie Kirk's death. When Erica Kirk posted Charlie's coffin, you responded, she tagged him, brackets, crying face emojis. In response to Alina Haber's tweet ordering people to fly their flags at half-mast in memory of Charlie, you posted on X buying flags and poles just to fly them fully erect. And you then posted yesterday, ending every Conservative debate call out I'd do in 2026 with "Don't dodge, bro. That's not what Charlie would have wanted." I mean, do you think that your response to the cold-blooded murder of Charlie Kirk has been appropriate?
Yes. I think that the only way this country moves forward into a better world is when conservatives can finally realize that they need to turn the temperature down on their side.
This is insane.
We are 10 years into whatever this Trump madness is, and there is not a single mainstream conservative that will call for a lowering of the temperature on their side. I think that liberals need to wake up and finally realize that if they're not willing to do it, it will never come down. What? If you wanted Charlie Kirk to be alive, Donald Trump shouldn't have been president for the second term. Every time he's in office, this happens. People joked about when Biden came in, it was so boring, nothing was going on. 7 out of 10 of the largest protests in American history have happened under Donald Trump. All of the recent political violence that's happened in this country over the past 20 years, the majority of it, the overwhelming majority of it, everybody gets mad because they keep asking Grok about it, has been conservative.
Who shot Charlie Kirk?
A guy from Utah who was raised in a Christian family. Who was a 22-year-old
A guy
white
described.
dude. He wasn't trans. He didn't have
Destiny.
a trans girlfriend. He didn't have any trans influences. He didn't have any trans bullets. Yeah, I'm sorry. You guys were wrong on all.
He's lying.
Yeah,
but the most important takeaway from that, and I'll show you a bit of this debunking it, how Charlie Kirk's killing sparked unfounded theories about groypers. Here's the New York Times. Kirk shooting suspect held leftist ideology, Utah governor says. And the only thing he can say is, you were wrong about that. You were wrong. But the most important takeaway from what he said was, if you wanted Charlie Kirk to be alive, Trump should not have been president in the second term. 7 of the biggest protests were under Trump, most of the political violence. What he is saying is obvious to anyone who has ears, and he is saying it in a way to exploit legal loopholes. Because what he's not legally allowed to say, or I would argue that he crosses the line into potentially being sought after for criminal charges, is if he said, and if he were to express that he or others would kill people who vote conservative, that's when he gets in trouble. But when he says it in this way, what is he saying? By you voting for Donald Trump, a leftist killed Charlie Kirk, and maybe you shouldn't have voted for Trump. If you didn't want the left to protest, the biggest protests and the mass rioting that we saw in 2020, maybe you shouldn't have voted for Trump. But who was doing it all? The left. And that's the threat he's giving you. In fact, there's another video. How about I play this one for you?
Exactly like
you need conservatives to be afraid of getting killed when they go to events so that they look to their leadership to turn down the temperature. Man. The issue is now
idiocy.
Guys, we can't hear when you talk over what they're saying.
Not exactly like
you need conservatives to be afraid of getting killed when they go to events so that they look to their leadership to turn down the temperature. The issue is right now they don't feel like there's any fear. Like, I don't know. It's like memes. It's just memes to everybody, I guess. I don't know.
That's a lie. And that's all he does is lie, because as the late David Graeber stated, the left 10 years ago adopted the fascistic ethos, quote, there is no truth but power. So when Destiny goes on Piers Morgan today and says there was no trans boyfriend, it's all made up, and we actually have, here you go, FBI investigating social media accounts that appeared to indicate foreknowledge of Kirk assassination, and they are all transgender-aligned accounts and in transgender forums saying we effing did it. And you have numerous reports, even the DOJ saying that this person was left in line with a trans boyfriend. And even the New York Times reporting Governor Spencer Cox, who has been heavily criticized by the right for actually being pro-left. But we'll get into more of this and the evidence breaking this down. The point is, this argument that they're making right now is that Destiny didn't really mean that. He's saying, no, you should fear the death, not actually get shot. That's a lie. He celebrated the death of Corey Comparator. He mocked it and made fun of it. I'll tell you this. When he says the right doesn't fear any of this stuff, it's a fabrication, and I can tell you how I know this. Without naming any of the prominent conservative personalities, I can tell you that many of them that I personally know have 24-hour security details that cost millions of dollars per year, and they have to sleep with 4 men surrounding their home every single night. And when I've gone and met with these people, I've had to we would go out for food and there's 4 guys surrounding us all the time. In fact, I have armed guards. And now as we're planning a trip, as I mentioned, I'll be in Austin soon. We are contemplating how much is in our budget for armed security to be transporting me around. Destiny is lying. He is creating terror intentionally. His statements are meant to be clear. Charlie Kirk died because Trump won the presidency because you voted for who you want to. What he's saying is this will continue. The left will be violent. They will kill again unless you stop and surrender and let them do whatever they want.
It's just terrorism. He's endorsing terrorism. He's saying that people should be afraid of being killed because of their politics. That is what terrorism is. There's not. It's not some kind of big convoluted concept. When you say, "I believe that violence should be used, and I endorse using violence." To modify people's political expression, that is terrorism. And it's exactly what Destiny's saying. He should get a visit from the FBI. And I think that if they decide or they find that he should go to trial. And if he is, he should be put in jail.
Yeah, well, and look, it's very careful what Destiny's saying here, where he's saying the right needs to learn to stop turning up the temperature. Okay, how exactly was Charlie Kirk turning up the temperature? Just having conservative beliefs? One
more thing to that point. There has never in any society, there has never been a situation where people are given, like when terrorism is used, and the response from the people has been to go to their leaders and say, give in to the terrorists. That's what he's saying. He's saying we need to turn up the heat on the conservatives so they'll go to Donald Trump and say, Donald Trump, you need to do things, and other Republicans, you need to do things that turn the temperature down. That has never worked in human history, ever. The response will be what I've said, which is use the force of government to put those people that would use terror into effing jail forever.
Let's put this into context, what he's saying. The Republicans need to go to Trump and tell Trump to turn things down. Charlie Kirk never advocated for violence, never insulted people based on race. They have lied about him every step of the way. He sought debate. He let anyone debate him, and he was shot in the neck by a man. And you know what? I'll do this. I will give you the lightest, nonpartisan approach I can to the assessment we have on the shooter and his motivation. Axios reports 2 days ago, or I'm sorry, this is yesterday. First post, I think it was just almost 2 days ago. Kirk investigators, aghast transgender roommate may lead to motive. Axios reporting this. This is not a conservative organization. And they said, authorities are investigating whether Tyler Robinson, suspected of killing Kirk, believed Kirk's views on gender identity were hateful to people like Robinson's transgender roommate. 6 sources familiar with the case tell Axios. So this is first and foremost. What they are saying is what we don't know if gender ideology was the motivating factor. What we do know is this individual at the bare minimum lived with a trans person. So forgive me if I say groypers don't live with trans people. That is a ridiculous fabrication. And here we are from Axios. How Charlie Kirk's killing sparked unfounded theories about groypers. And prominent mainstream liberals were running this lie. They also ran a lie where they claimed that the bullet engravings reported by Crowder and the Wall Street Journal said TRN, and that was simply the manufacturer's stamp. It was a lie. Total fabrication. The bullet, in fact, said, "Hey, fascist, catch." Destiny's rebuttal on the show was that wasn't the bullet he was shot with, which is a meaningless distinction. It was in the magazine. And so I don't understand what his point is supposed to be, other than some are saying that Destiny's life has been ruined for some time. His family hates him. His kid hates him. And that he is doing these things intentionally to destroy his own life. And that may be the case. Now, the reason I bring that up is because the reason they're saying this is don't blame all liberals for a man who is intentionally destroying his own life through rage and addiction or whatever it is he's doing. Perhaps.
On some level, I like that he says this publicly so we know what the face of evil looks like. And also, who bailed out the arsonists in 2020? Who ignored David Dorn getting shot in the head? You know, it was like the left was cheering on all of that destruction.
Aaron Danielson shot in the chest by
Right.
Michael Reinhold walking down the street in Portland.
Children getting shot at different Chaz locations.
Yep.
So, and I'll just point this out real quick. New York Post. Charlie Kirk assassination suspect had furry fixation and his trans boyfriend proclaimed support for Biden on social media. It is fascinating to me that Destiny, he knows he's lying. They all know they're lying. As I pointed out already, unfounded theories about groypers. These Democrats have been lying incessantly. Now, something I've shown, I was showing all throughout the day, and I want to pull this up for you guys. Let me see if I can find this one. I've played it like on every single.
I hope everyone's
Show I
reading
did today.
John Dutoit's tweet up there.
Yeah. I just don't like that guy's face, mate, that Destiny bloke. That's the reason why there's got that cuck chair in the corner of them hotels, mate. I mean, like...
He's a possessed Muppet.
So here we go. I'm going to play this. Nice. I'm going to play this video for you guys in this context. Here you go.
So hi. I haven't spoken about the Charlie Kirk murder until now because we didn't know anything. And since my channel was created not to report the news but to make sense of it, I felt like the only responsible thing to do was to wait until there was more information. It now appears that the person who shot and killed right-wing political commentator Charlie Kirk was like the majority of shooters in America, a young white male from a conservative pro-gun religious background.
Now let's just pause real quick and break down the manipulation technique she used. We call this assumptive reasoning or assumptive language. That is to say something that will trick someone into assuming the statement is connected or to assume an output. That is, he came from a conservative background. She is hoping that you will then assume he held those same views. There's a bunch of ways the media does this. One of my favorite things, one of my favorite techniques they use would be like this. I spoke with Shane Cashman. In a conversation, I was told that he hates vanilla ice cream. Now, it sounds like what I'm saying is I talked to Shane and Shane says he doesn't want to eat vanilla. No, that's not what I said. There's a period there. In a conversation. That was a totally different conversation. What do you mean? What are you talking about? I never said that. And that's the game they play. Now, the reality is, we know this guy. It's reported by law enforcement, media, numerous journalists that have investigated this, people who have talked to the shooter's friends and family. He was left aligned. She says more.
After being told for 2 straight days that the left had declared war on America, that the shooter was most likely trans, or in Congresswoman Nancy Mace's words, pro-tranny. After the Wall Street Journal published an article they had to later walk back that the bullets had a pro-trans message because it turned out to be just the markings of one of the world's biggest ammunition factories.
Absolute abject lie.
Yes, man.
And there's no way she doesn't know that because they did a press conference and there were numerous reports on this. What she is basing her worldview off of is random anonymous Twitter accounts that were posting images of bullet casings with TRN for Turin on the bottom. And she ran with the lie without fact checking, either because she is developmentally disabled, which I don't think so. I think she is intentionally and willfully lying to obfuscate the motives of the assassin, who is closer to mainstream Democrat than anyone wants to admit, even liberals. At first, they celebrated until the Yankees did a memorial, a moment of silence, until the Cowboys. I think most NFL teams now apparently had...
There's just 4 that didn't. It was only
4 that didn't.
I don't know which ones, but it was just the 4. I think it was all of them, basically, except the 4 of them, yeah.
In Vegas.
Yeah.
Some of the casinos on their marquees in memory of Charlie Kirk. And when the liberals realized Charlie Kirk was a moderate, beloved by most people, Chris Pratt has spoken out. Bill Maher has spoken out. Jamie Kennedy, I think. I just saw him. Comedian.
Yeah,
Mick Jagger.
That was great.
Mick Jagger did.
Yep, he did.
The left began to panic when they realized they're on the wrong side of history. So they're trying to change the narrative. And they are playing dirty, evil, psychotic games to do it, but we will expose them.
Changing history, mate. There
Well,
you
you've
go.
seen a few times on Twitter where they'll come out and they'll say, "Oh, it was a groyper that did it," and then you press them and you say, "Well, you're changing this because you know this is completely indefensible action that took place," and they'll say, "Well, no, actually, it was his rhetoric that got him." So it's like they can't even decide on what their narrative is. It's just absolutely insane.
They fight with each other on it too. Like you see,
Yeah.
they're still fighting the position of whether it's a moral thing to do. You see, half of them are going, "Oh, he didn't deserve to die," and half of them are like, "Yeah, he did because he said this," and then they're collapsing on themselves. There's a reason why they can't make a meaningful political movement, because they can't even come together for any sort of length of time that's meaningful at all. You look at it. No, you go. No, you're right. You're right.
I was going to say the ironic thing is that when these leftists come out and say, Charlie Kirk preached hate, so he deserved it, they're holding up a giant bullseye over their own faces. And that's why we tell them not to do this. The logic that these people are espousing is if Charlie did deserve it, they're basically saying they do too.
Yeah.
And you know what's funny is the whole time, several years, Destiny says no one in the mainstream conservative movement will call for the temperature to be put down, to go down. Literally every single mainstream conservative, every day. Literally every day.
Yeah.
Ben Shapiro, Charlie Kirk himself, Jack, me, we're always saying, guys, we don't want violence, even in the wake of Charlie Kirk's killing. On the day of, with tears in my eyes, as well as many others, we said cooler heads must prevail, and we do not want violence. Yep. But no matter how many times we beg and say, stop, the left doesn't. And you know what they do? They create fake NGOs. Well, they're real NGOs, mind you. And they do this really clever thing that the right isn't smart enough to do. So how about we do this right now? I'm going to create an organization, and we're going to call it let's call it the Mitteloop Institution. And we're going to call it the premier surveying and study group for the United States. Then we're going to put out a report where we say 97% of all violence is caused by the far left. Then we're going to disseminate that to newspapers who will publish it as fact and say new study reveals far left responsible for 97% of violence. And then when you trace it back to its source, you find out it is a leftist aligned nonprofit with a partisan report that was basically fabricated and then laundered through the press to masquerade as fact. And then they go on CNN, these Democrats like Seth Moulton, and say the right is responsible for 76% of violence. And what are they really saying? They're saying we've excluded gang violence from mass shootings. We've then lumped in, as the ADL does, anti-government protests, which includes Antifa.
Yep.
White supremacy, which is not overtly political in any mainstream partisan way.
And that includes white supremacist gangs in prison.
And my favorite.
Really?
My favorite. Other.
That's crazy.
The ADL considers any nondescript political violence to be right-wing. Let me prove it for you. Let me prove it. I ain't even playing around.
I didn't even know that's how deep it goes.
Yeah,
Like,
so
you're talking about
it's white supremacist gangs in prison, which they are violent in prison because there's a lot of violence, but it doesn't include any black people in prison that commit any violence.
Here you go. Wow. Take a look at how the Anti-Defamation League's heat map categorizes extremism. Right-wing, white supremacist. Now, if you went to J.D. Vance, the vice president, or Donald Trump, and asked them, do they hate black people based on race, or should there be race? They're going to say absolutely not. There should be no laws based on, preferences based on race. If you went to any mainstream conservative and said, should there be race-based policy? Or, more importantly, do you think white people are inherently better than other races? 100% would say no. I said mainstream. There are certainly people on the fringe who align with white supremacy, but they call it right-wing. Next, you have right-wing anti-government. That's right. When far leftists go out and engage in violence, that's right-wing because they oppose the government. What? Okay, here's my favorite. Other. The category includes other right-wing extremist movements, as well as the extreme wings of the broader right-wing movements, if they have association with violence, including anti-abortion, anti-Muslim, anti-immigration, anti-public lands. Other.
Interesting.
So what is left-wing? The category includes groups and movements traditionally considered part of the left, as well as anarchists. It also includes environmental and animal rights extremists. For simplicity's sakes, it includes black nationalist extremists, even though not all black nationalist extremist groups are necessarily fall under the banner of the far left. Why are there 3 categories of right wing?
Very extreme category.
Why is an Islamist under left wing?
Yeah.
The left overtly defends Islam every single day. Why is white supremacist right wing? How about they put left wing, parentheses, Islamist? Because what they have done is they've intentionally created a list that will lump tons of different categories under the quote unquote right. Because to the left, right wing means bad guy. This is what they do. So how about this? I'll start an NGO and we'll call it the Middle Loop Institution. And we'll get a picture of Shane wearing his mighty fine glasses. And you're a doctor.
Yeah, that's right. $20.
Dr.
You can get online
Cashman.
too. Yeah, that's right. I can do weddings.
That's
and
right.
I'm a doctor.
Yeah.
Dr. Cashman. No, but you were actually a professor.
Yeah, I was. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you have a doctorate?
No.
Well, you're Dr.
I don't have that
Cashman
much
anyway.
shame, but yeah, we'll pretend.
We'll pretend. You know what? No, we'll get Dr. Drew. We'll get whoever.
Yeah.
And then we will do the stats the way they do, disseminate them to the press, and the press will run with it. Now, of course, the truth is the media is left aligned. So they know they are lying when they disseminate this stuff, but that's how they launder fake news and manipulate people into believing this stuff.
Pass the buck along back to the NGO. They don't give a shit.
Well, it goes back to a study, a report that was published by the NGO.
A real
that
report.
No one checks.
There was one doctor who signed off on it.
My favorite was the Alternative Influencer Network report 7 years ago, where they claimed that Chris Ray Gun, a video game comedy YouTuber, had collaborated with Richard Spencer, the frontman of the alt-right, when in fact the two men not only had nothing in common, but never once met. They claimed in their report that I had collaborated with Stefan Molyneux, who I had never met before. They just make it up. The funny thing was they put me in the middle of it. There's this big, like, what are those things called with the conspiracy maps, like the red lines?
Oh, just a fucking crazy guy's fucking wall.
They made that, and they put me in the middle. And the Young Turks used it unironically.
How's it feel when, like, you see that just as Tim?
I mean, I don't know.
She's just like, what the fuck?
I guess at that point, it's when I first saw it, I made a bunch of phone calls like, whoa, what is this?
Yeah.
And mind you, this is in 2018. I believe it was 2018. And this was a time where I said I was staunchly liberal and would never vote for Donald Trump and couldn't stand the guy. And they still lied about me and smeared me and did all this stuff.
Right.
Absolutely insane. So at the time, I made a bunch of phone calls, furious, and called a lawyer and said, how can they include me in this and claim that I interacted with people I did not? And they said, you can't do anything about it. You can't sue them. They're allowed to do it.
Well, and I mean, now it's going to get people killed. As we've seen, all these lies and smears and et cetera, it's going to get people killed, as it already has.
Yeah, that's their goal.
Yeah.
That's their goal.
Well, they set up the pincer movement a while ago where they would say, if you went to like your average leftist and be like, okay, is it appropriate to punch a Nazi? And they'd be like, yeah, of course. Of course,
Punch a
absolutely.
local Nazi.
And then they would say, is someone like Charlie Kirk a fascist? And they'd be like, yeah, of course. And it's like, okay, well, you've already cleared political violence in your worldview. They did it years ago.
We've seen the way that they've cultivated this the labeling culture that they've cultivated, where they attach these extreme words onto ordinary people like Charlie, who are doing extraordinary things, but they label the word Nazi, fascist, sexist, misogynist. And most people, let's be honest, most people don't do their own research. Most people just want to hear what they want to hear. They want to see what they want to see. So people hear this, they'll run with it. If they don't like the guy, because from what they've heard or what their mates heard, they're going to run with it. And now we're seeing right now the end game of it. Finally, they've got what they've wanted. They've now hit the green button on violence. Now it's condoned, mate. And a lot of them are complicit in it. You see a lot of them are pushing back, saying, I don't agree with it. I think it should be. But they're bickering with themselves. I can't believe a whole side of the political aisle can't come to terms on whether murder is wrong.
Yeah.
You know? Isn't that,
It's because
messed up, mate?
They've effectively made their side believe in the caricature that the talking heads and the bureaucrats created. So like Trump being literally Hitler, they literally
That used to
believe
be a
it.
meme, though. Remember, It's like, he is literally Hitler. But now it's like, they're maniacs, these people, mate, Like out here, they truly believe this. And they think they're heroes, mate. They think they're Iron Man, Superman, superheroes rolling in, ka-chow, thinking they're saving the universe from sudden doom. Yeah. Where it's just a normal bloke, saying he loves people of all races, he doesn't see race. Get shot. Yeah. How disgusting is that?
Yeah, man.
We lived in America. I moved here because you get away from countries like that, Yeah. But what a shame.
Thanks for checking out this clip from Timcast IRL. Make sure to watch the show live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. Subscribe to this channel, and we will see you all there.